Let me give you guys a bit of advice, or more of a rule of thumb, if you will, about how I personally debunk and call out channels like Nerdrotic, channels like this that are full of bad actors doing bad things. Now, in my latest video, the comment section is a minefield of garbage. Pretty much is. Shout out to all the real ones in the comment section having conversations with me, but it's a lot of garbage in the comments. But one of the things I see quite often, not just in this video, but in any video where I call out people like this for doing dumb shit, is prove that they are the things that you say they are. And this is something that I have sort of adjusted over the last couple years, the way I call them out, the way I address this kind of stuff. It is much easier for us as people who are debunking and calling them out to call out bad behavior than it is to prove they are those things. And what I mean by that is when you are looking at what they are doing and the things they're saying and the actions they're taking, it is much more beneficial and productive to call out the fact that they are doing misogynistic stuff or doing homophobic, racist, bigoted stuff. It is much more productive to call out that behavior than it is to try and prove they are those things. Proving that somebody is one of those things means that you would have to convince everyone that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that those people are actually as awful as the things that they're doing. And we have to understand the capability of doing bad things, making mistakes, things like that. It's all of us have the capacity to do that. There are patterns of behavior. There are a lot of things that people can do to show you basically who they really are, right? As a person. But that's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be different for me. It's going to be different for you. It's going to be different for personal relationships that they might have with other content creators. So for me, it is much more beneficial to call out the behavior because behavior can be corrected. Behavior can be adjusted. You can be a better version of yourself by changing one or two things that you might do that harm other people. It's easier to do that than it is to expect somebody to change who they are as a person. And so by calling out someone's behavior, saying that was a dumb thing, that was so fucking dumb what you said, it is much easier to address that than it is to try and sort of frame them as something. So we'll look at one aspect of Nerdrotic, probably the one thing that he gets criticized the most for, and that is for misogynistic behavior, being like anti-woman, as basically as a stance of his. Now, again, you would have to prove that Nerdrotic at the core of a person, as a person, hates women, right? In order to prove that he is a full-blown misogynist. But you don't have to do that. That's not even necessary. You can literally call somebody out for misogynistic behavior without calling them a misogynist. Now, before we get into this, before we dive into this, if you go and enjoy this video, you want to be part of the change here on YouTube and mess with this algorithm, this pesky algorithm, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment down below. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little dive, and I'm very quick. I cut very quick to this. This isn't going to be too complicated on how I determine whether or not if somebody is actually a bad actor and they're doing something for the money, they're doing it for the clout, they're doing it for the shit post, whatever it might be, based on behavior. Because I think it is important to look at the behavioral aspects of what someone is doing, more so than trying to pin it on that person. And you can make the decision whether or not you think he's a full-blown misogynist based on this information. It's totally up to you. So people would say that he's not misogynistic because he is criticizing Disney and Marvel based on the writing, the stuff that they do, the things that they do, the way the shows are produced and directed and edited and all these things. And yes, maybe at some point in a stream somewhere or a random video, maybe he has talked about those things. And they could say, well, that would make him not a misogynist because he's talking about other things. But I would say the general public, the people that are seeing his content and clicking on it and seeing the titles and things like that, they're being drawn in by that behavior and by the things that he is doing. So what is the definition of misogyny? Let's look at the definition and see exactly what it is. All right, so the black and white definition of misogyny is a dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. Now, the first portion of this definition, dislike and contempt. Those are much harder to prove because we would have to prove that Gary Nerdrotic actually dislikes or hates women or has contempt for women. Now, I believe that there is some of that in his content. I believe that that is part of the whole F&T crew and everyone he sort of associates with. They do feel that way, but I can't prove that he feels that way. I'd have to ask him and he would have to say it or something along those lines. However, the ingrained prejudice is something you can prove based on a pattern of behavior. That is something that we can look at. That means prejudging women and assuming that anything they are associated with will fail because they are women. That would be a prejudging of women. And ingrained means that anytime something comes around with a woman and they immediately criticize it, that shows that pattern of behavior. So let's see if there's anything that Gary has done that could make you believe that he has an ingrained prejudice against women with the content that he is making. All right, so we took a look at his Nerdrotic channel and I went over to the search feature and I just typed in Brie Larson. So this would include any video that either has Brie Larson in the tags and the title or in the description box. And if you look through here and you see there are tons of videos here about Brie Larson and how awful she is. And they're mixed in with stuff from Star Wars or some other women-led projects here that are listed because using Brie Larson in the tags or whatever. And a lot of this stuff came out prior to the film being released. And if I were to type in pretty much any other woman's name into the search bar, like Margot Robbie or something like that, you'd find another list of videos like this, some of them sharing the same thumbnails and titles because it's about putting buzzwords in to get people to click on your content. There's no rule against that. However, what this shows is that on his Nerdrotic channel, he has a pattern of behavior that shows that he is prejudging women in a way that makes it seem as if the project they're attached to will underperform because they are women. I tried it again with Kathleen Kennedy. It's the same thing. It's just a bunch of videos about Kathleen Kennedy being bad for anything and everything related to Star Wars before projects even come out. So again, prejudging Kathleen Kennedy on content. Now, before you come at me and go, oh, well, they were bad after they came out, that doesn't matter. Again, we're not talking about whether they're right or wrong in regards to that. We're also not talking about him as a person. We're talking about the behavior. Prejudging something and assuming it's going to be bad simply because a woman is writing it, directing it, starring in it is misogynistic. That is the definition of misogyny. It's included in reasons why someone or something could be misogynistic. So by that standard, this would be considered misogyny. Now, you can be mad about it all you want and try and change it or frame it, but this is the behavior. This is proof, but it goes even further than that. Nerdrotic has another channel. A lot of these guys have multiple channels. I have multiple channels. It's not a new thing. However, if you go over here to Nerdrotic Daily and you type in Brie Larson or Kathleen Kennedy, you get another set of videos. Look, this one isn't even connected to Brie Larson, but when I type in Brie Larson, it pops up because of the algorithm. But you go through here and you see a bunch of these videos here where he's doing the same thing, the same misogynistic behavior that he gets called out for. Now, again, I want to reiterate this because I think this is important. This does not mean or factually proves that Nerdrotic Gary is a misogynist. However, this is misogynistic behavior. It is the black and white definition of misogyny. However, I know that's still not going to be enough for a lot of you. A lot of you Nerdrotic minions who are completely brain rotted and your mind has melded into everything, anything and everything that he's going to say, you're still not going to believe me. But let me point out something. And this is probably, for me, the biggest sign that it is about women, and maybe it is about contempt and dislike of women, is the catchphrase that Nerdrotic loves to claim that was 100% his own. Maybe it was, I don't know. He's the one that uses it more than anybody else. And that is she, you. Now, please explain to me, in the simplest terms possible, what MCU means as a term. Obviously, it's a play on MCU because Marvel Cinematic Universe. MCU was created to say that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now bad because it is women led. That is the definition of that term, according to the community, according to the fandom. Anytime you see something before it comes out, Echo, the Marvels, any of these other properties before they come out, you will see the term MCU attached to it. So what does that mean? Does that mean the movie's going to be good because it's women led? Does that mean you can't wait to see it because it's part of the women Marvel Cinematic Universe? Is that what that means? No, it means you think it's going to be bad because Marvel is the MCU according to you, meaning that you are judging it, you're prejudging it based on it being women-led or having women involved in it some way or another. And so you're showing that you're going to dislike it and you have contempt for it because it is a project with women, which is literally the black and white definition of misogyny, as we looked at earlier. And you can see here, he has done it with almost every single project with women attached to it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So maybe he isn't misogynistic. Maybe we're just misreading it. Maybe we're completely wrong about Gary. Maybe he loves women and he just loves to be misogynistic for money. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he likes to shitpost for money and harm women in the industry, have people dogpile them, have people go out and do all these hateful things because they're part of a community where women are treated this way. Maybe that's what he likes doing. Maybe he's a good guy and it's not him. It's just all of the fans of his channel somehow magically don't like women. It's funny how that works. So is Nerdrotic a misogynist? I don't know. Does Nerdrotic do misogynistic things? 100%. Take from that what you will.